we are looking at a concept today that, honestly, it fundamentally challenges basic high school
Oh,
physics.
absolutely. It turns the whole thing upside down.
Right, because usually we just think of water as a resource. You know, you turn on the tap, it comes out, you drink it to hydrate your cells, and, well, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's just purely transactional for most people.
Exactly. But what if water isn't just a passive liquid? What if, like, the most abundant substance on Earth is actually a highly sensitive recording device?
It is a massive paradigm shift. I mean, we're talking about the premise that water actually has memory.
Which sounds like science fiction.
It really does. But the theory is that it actively responds to human emotion, to the frequencies of the words we speak, and even to our silent intentions.
And it literally stores that
Right.
information, right?
Yes, exactly. It stores it in its physical molecular structure.
And that is our mission for this deep dive today. We are exploring the mechanics behind this wild idea, how water might actually function as this responsive, living intelligence.
Which is fascinating when you really start digging into it.
It really is. And, if you're listening to this right now and you happen to have, say, a glass of water sitting on your desk, this conversation is going to completely change your relationship with it.
Because the implications don't just stop at the rim of that glass on your desk. I mean, human beings are predominantly made of water.
Right, which is the crazy part.
Yeah. So if water possesses the capacity to, structurally remember or respond to its environment, we are essentially talking about our own bodies.
So our internal environment.
Exactly. How our internal emotional state, our raw thoughts and feelings, is physically altering the molecular geometry inside of us.
Okay, so to understand how a thought could possibly alter a physical molecule, we have to look at the mechanics of this, like the physical
Right.
evidence.
We have to ground it in the observation.
Yeah, so we are diving into the research of Masaru Emoto. He was this researcher who spent decades flash freezing water to capture its unseen structure, right?
Yes, his methodology was really entirely focused on that precise moment of crystallization.
Walk me through what that actually looked like in the lab.
So he would take water and he'd expose it to various environmental stimuli, words, music, things like that.
Okay.
And then he would drop the temperature incredibly rapidly. He then photographed the resulting ice crystals under a microscope in a very cold room.
And the photographs, I mean, if you haven't seen them, they are just striking.
They're beautiful.
They really are. When he exposed the water to spoken words like love or gratitude or played harmonious classical music, the water froze into these breathtaking, perfectly symmetrical hexagonal
Yeah,
crystals.
they look like incredibly complex snowflakes.
Exactly like snowflakes. But then when he exposed water to words expressing hate or anger or just aggressive, chaotic noise,
There were no geometric shapes at all.
right, the ice just froze into these jagged, broken, asymmetrical globs like mud almost.
Which, immediately begs the question, how is that even possible?
Because in classical chemistry, H2O is just H2O.
Right. It's two hydrogen atoms covalently bonded to one oxygen atom. Full stop.
Yeah, and classical materialist science argues that a molecule doesn't care if you yell at it, it has no feelings.
Exactly. So to understand Emoto's findings, we have to look a bit deeper into the actual physics of water itself, specifically hydrogen bonding.
Okay, lay that out for me. What is actually happening at the molecular level when sound or emotion shits the water?
Well, water is a polar molecule. So the oxygen side has a slight negative charge, and the hydrogen side has a slight positive charge.
So they're kind of like tiny magnets.
Yes, perfect analogy.
Ugh.
They act like tiny magnets, constantly attracting and repelling each other. And they form what are called hydrogen bonds.
Okay, I remember that from chemistry class.
Right. But what's crucial here is that these bonds are incredibly fast and flexible. I mean, they are breaking and reforming billions of times per second.
Wait, billions of times a second?
A second, yeah, it's incredibly dynamic.
So the water is just constantly shifting, reorganizing itself. It's never static.
Exactly. And because of this constant reorganization, water molecules don't just float around individually, they form clusters.
Like little groups.
Right, they
Yeah.
group together into temporary geometric shapes. And what Emoto's work suggests, and what researchers in fields like cymatic study, is that vibrational frequencies directly impact how those clusters form.
Yeah. Okay, I can actually wrap my head around sound waves doing this.
Right, because sound is physical.
Yeah, sound is a physical pressure wave. So if you play harmonious music, you are sending organized rhythmic pressure waves through the liquid.
Which would theoretically influence the geometry of those water clusters right before they freeze.
Exactly. But, and this is where I get tripped up, Emoto didn't just use spoken words or music. He wrote words on pieces of paper and taped them to the vials of water.
He did.
How on earth does ink on a piece of paper emit a frequency that alters hydrogen bonds? That sounds like magic.
Yeah, and that is precisely where the friction with the traditional scientific establishment happens.
I can imagine.
To explain the written word phenomenon, we really have to step into the realm of quantum field theory and this concept of biofields.
Okay, break that down for me. Biofields.
So the theory proposes that a written word isn't just ink. It's a physical manifestation of a human intention. And that intention itself carries a subtle energetic frequency.
So you're saying the human thought, the actual thought that created the written word, leaves some kind of localized electromagnetic signature.
That is the working hypothesis within this framework, yeah. I mean, everything emits a frequency. We know the brain and the heart emit measurable electromagnetic fields.
Right, like an EKG or an EEG.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the theory is that when you focus an intention, like gratitude, you are generating a coherent frequency.
Okay.
And when that intention is directed at the water, even through the medium of a written label, that subtle frequency interacts with those highly receptive, constantly shifting hydrogen bonds.
Oh, wow. So earlier I was thinking of it like a molecular mood ring, but that feels way too passive now.
What do you mean?
Well, a mood ring just reacts to heat. This is more like a magnetic tape drive.
Oh, that's interesting. Explain that.
Think about how old VHS tapes or like cassette tapes work.
Okay, yeah.
You have this strip of plastic, and it's coated in iron oxide particles.
Yeah.
And normally those particles are completely chaotic and unorganized.
Right, they're just scattered.
But when you run that tape past a magnetic recording head, the electromagnetic pulses from the head physically reorient those iron oxide particles into specific ordered patterns.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, the tape has stored the information structurally.
That is actually a highly functional way to visualize it.
So in this scenario, the water is the magnetic tape, and those hydrogen-bonded clusters are the iron oxide particles.
Yes.
And human intention, or the frequency of the word love, acts as the recording head. It's physically pulling those water clusters into an organized, symmetrical geometry. The water is quite literally recording the data of the room.
That is brilliant. Yes, and just like a magnetic tape, the water holds that structural information until it is subjected to a new frequency that overrides it.
It gets taped over.
Exactly. Emoto's flash freezing was essentially hitting the pause button so we could actually see the data that had been recorded.
Wow.
When the structure was organized by coherent frequencies, like gratitude, the freeze captured a symmetrical crystal.
And when the structure was blasted with the chaotic frequencies of anger?
It couldn't form a stable geometry. It resulted in those distorted, broken globs. It was just noise on the tape.
Okay, if water is a dynamic recording device that physically restructures itself based on the frequencies it encounters, we have to take this concept and, well, look in the mirror.
Because we are the water.
We are predominantly water. We all know the statistics, right? The body is roughly 60% water.
And organs like the brain and the heart are over 70% water.
The human body is essentially an incredibly complex walking body of water just held together by a biological framework.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
Yeah. Which means we are walking around with a massive internal magnetic tape drive.
We absolutely are.
I mean, if a motor's water in a glass vial is dramatically restructuring its molecular geometry based on the energetic frequencies of human thoughts, then our inner world is doing the exact same thing to our inner water.
It creates this fascinating intersection between psychology and cellular biology.
How so?
Well, we already know about the chemical mind-body connection, right? You have a stressful thought, your brain signals the adrenal glands, you pump out cortisol, and your heart rate spikes.
Sure, yeah. A physical reaction to a thought.
Right. That is a chemical cascade. But this theory introduces a purely structural, energetic cascade that is happening simultaneously.
But how does that actually work inside the body? Because the water inside me isn't just sitting still in a vial. It's constantly moving. It's flowing through veins. It's penetrating cell walls.
True, but look at the electromagnetic fields generated by the human body. The heart, for instance, generates an electromagnetic field that is roughly 60 times greater in amplitude than the brain's field.
Wait, really? 60 times?
Yes, it permeates every single cell in your body. So if you are experiencing a state of deep frustration or anger, the electromagnetic signal radiating from your heart is measurable. and it is erratic. It's chaotic.
And that chaotic signal is the recording head writing data onto the water inside my own cells.
Precisely. The theory suggests that this chaotic frequency actually disrupts the highly organized clustering of the water inside your cells.
That sounds bad.
Well, particularly the water surrounding your proteins and your DNA, which relies on a very structured, almost gel-like state to function optimally.
So you're introducing mechanical disorganization into the fluid that literally runs your biology.
That's the implication, yes.
I have to admit, I struggle with the practical weight of this.
How do you mean?
When you really think about the mechanics that every single thought is an acoustic and electromagnetic broadcast that my cells are actively listening to, it sounds both beautiful but honestly pretty terrifying.
Terrifying in what sense?
Well, think about an average Tuesday, okay? If I'm stuck in traffic, I'm running late, and I start spiraling into negative self-talk.
We've all been there.
Right. I'm calling myself an idiot for missing my exit, feeling that tight, angry stress in my chest. Am I literally shattering my internal water crystals?
Oh, okay.
Am I permanently destroying the molecular structure of my own body just by having a bad morning commute?
Okay, it's really important not to look at this as a mechanism of permanent destruction.
Oh, thank goodness.
Remember the foundational physics we discussed earlier. Water is dynamic. Those hydrogen bonds are breaking and reforming billions of times a second.
Right.
Water flows. It doesn't shatter like glass. It reorganizes.
So a moment of negative self-talk creates disorganized structures, but it isn't like permanent damage.
Correct. It is a continuous dynamic broadcast. So if you spend an hour in a state of chaotic stress, yes, you are theoretically holding the water in your body in a disorganized, inefficient state.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the moment you shift your internal frequency, the moment you take a deep breath, consciously drop your shoulders, and generate a feeling of calm or gratitude, you are sending a new, coherent signal through the system.
You are rewriting the tape.
You are rewriting the tape in real time.
That is a relief.
And this is exactly why this concept shouldn't be terrifying. It should actually be empowering.
How so?
Well, we often treat positive self-talk or mindfulness as these soft psychological exercises. We tell ourselves to be positive just so we feel a little less gloomy.
Right, like it's just a mood booster.
But if water has memory, then speaking kindly to yourself is a hard, physical, biological maintenance practice.
Wow.
You are actively organizing the geometric structure of your cellular environment.
That completely reframes the idea of self-care. It isn't just about feeling better. It is a structural necessity.
Absolutely.
You are ensuring the physical medium of your body is highly ordered and capable of functioning at its peak.
Which naturally leads to the question of the external water we put into that system.
Oh, right, because we are constantly taking in new water.
Exactly. If our internal water is constantly fluctuating based on our mental state, how do we optimize the water we are consuming to support that highly ordered internal environment?
And this is where we get into the practical application, specifically looking at how we can actively manipulate the water we drink.
Yes, this is a huge area of interest.
And a major piece of the research surrounding this topic points to the use of ionizers, particularly systems that produce what is known as Kangen water.
Right. Now, Kangen water is a specific trademark term, but the underlying technology we're talking about is water ionization via electrolysis.
Break down the mechanics of that for me, because we hear terms like restructured water or microclustered water in these discussions all the time. But what is the machine actually doing to the tap water when it passes through it?
Okay, so when tap water enters an ionizer, it passes over positively and negatively charged plates. These are typically made of titanium and coated in platinum. This process of electrolysis physically separates the water into two streams: an alkaline stream, which has a higher concentration of hydroxide ions, and an acidic stream with more hydrogen ions.
So it's fundamentally changing the pH of the water.
It is.
But how does changing the pH relate to the structure and the memory of the water that we've been talking about?
Well, the theory behind ionization goes way beyond just pH. Proponents argue that the electrical charge passed through the water fundamentally alters the clustering behavior of the water molecules.
Clusters we talked about earlier.
Yes. Remember how we said water molecules group together through hydrogen bonding?
Right, the temporary geometric shapes.
Right. Well, typical tap water, which is often pushed through miles of high-pressure city pipes and treated with chemicals, tends to form very large, disorganized clusters.
How large are we talking?
Sometimes 15 to 20 molecules per cluster. It is physically chaotic water.
Yeah.
It's clumped together. The electrical process of the ionizer is theorized to break those large clusters down into much smaller, highly organized microclusters, maybe 5 or 6 molecules in size.
And a smaller cluster is theoretically easier for the cells in our body to absorb.
Exactly. It's often compared to trying to throw a softball through a chain link fence versus throwing a handful of marbles.
Oh, that's a great visual.
Yeah, the microclustered hexagonal water can theoretically pass through cellular membranes much more efficiently, carrying hydration in and pulling out toxins.
So the machine is using electricity to force the water into a highly ordered, pristine geometric state.
That's the idea, yes.
Okay, so the ionizer is essentially doing what Emoto's classical music was doing, but through direct electrical current.
Exactly.
It is formatting the magnetic tape. It's wiping away the chaotic data from the city pipes and giving you a perfectly clean, structured, high-quality tape.
That is exactly what the machine provides, a clean, highly ordered structural baseline.
I feel a but coming.
But, and this is the crucial pivot in the application of water memory, a formatted tape is still just a blank tape.
Ah, it has no data on it.
Precisely. The technology can provide the pristine structural baseline, but human consciousness is what actually programs it.
Okay, wait, I need to make sure I'm getting this.
So if you take that perfectly restructured water, right, and you drink it while screaming at the television or scrolling through anxiety-inducing news on your phone...
Which, let's be honest, is how most of us drink our water.
Right. But if you do that, you are immediately introducing a chaotic frequency back into that pristine structure right as it enters your body.
So the real practical magic isn't just buying a fancy machine. It is the synergy of the technology and the human intention.
Exactly. The intention is the data you are writing onto the clean tape.
Like having perfectly premium, clean paper, but your intention is the ink.
Beautifully put, yes. The practice involves fundamentally changing the behavioral momentum of how we drink.
What do you mean by behavioral momentum?
Well, we are deeply conditioned to view water as a mindless commodity. We chug it from plastic bottles while sitting in traffic. We gulp it down without thinking while we're rushing out the door.
It is entirely transactional. We're thirsty, we drink.
Right. To utilize the memory of water, you have to break that transaction. The specific action required is a complete cessation of that mindless momentum.
So what does that actually look like in practice?
You pour the structured water, you hold the glass, you pause.
Just pause?
Yes. You generate a feeling of gratitude, and you actually have to feel it to emit the frequency, and you direct that intention into the water. You say thank you, and you mean it.
You are intentionally programming the substance right before it becomes a part of your own biology.
Yes.
It makes you realize that every time you take a drink, you have an opportunity to send a highly organized, coherent message directly to your cells.
You are quite literally drinking your own intentions.
That is wild.
It is, and it bridges a massive gap between ancient tradition and modern quantum theory.
Oh, how so?
Think about it. Almost every indigenous culture and ancient religious tradition has some ritual of blessing water or food before consuming it.
Oh, of course. Saying grace, blessing the wine, holy water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For a long time, materialist science dismissed all of this as pure superstition, just people being quaint.
Right.
But if we understand water as a programmable medium, those ancestors weren't just being superstitious. They were utilizing the physical mechanics of resonance to restructure their sustenance.
They were writing data onto the water thousands of years before we had microscopes to photograph the crystals or ionizers to restructure the clusters.
They understood the responsive nature of the physical world instinctively. Your consciousness is not just trapped inside your skull. It is a tangible, measurable force that interacts with the building blocks of reality.
This has been such an incredible journey to trace today. I mean, we started with the physical mechanics of Masaru Emoto's experiments.
Looking at how the flexible hydrogen bonds of water act like a recording device.
Right, physically restructuring into those beautiful symmetrical crystals when exposed to the frequencies of gratitude and breaking apart when hit with chaotic stress.
And then we move from that external observation to the internal reality.
Recognizing that the 60% of our body, that is water, is constantly being shaped by the electromagnetic broadcast of our own thoughts.
Which is such a powerful realization.
And finally, we looked at the mechanics of practical application, how the process of electrolysis in an ionizer can break down large, chaotic water clusters to provide a clean, structural baseline.
But how it ultimately requires the frequency of our own intentional gratitude to actually program that water before we consume it.
It is really about reclaiming your agency over your internal and external environment.
It really is.
So, my challenge to you listening right now, Pay fierce attention to your internal broadcast today.
Yes, notice your thoughts.
When things go wrong, notice the frequency of your self-talk. Are you writing chaotic, broken data into your own cellular structure?
And if you are, take a breath.
Take a breath, shift the frequency, and rewrite the tape. Treat your body with the respect of a highly sensitive instrument.
And as we close, I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own regarding the implications of this memory.
Oh, I love these. Lay it on us.
So we know the global water cycle is a closed loop, right?
Right.
Water evaporates from the oceans, forms clouds, rains down, flows into rivers, is consumed by us, and eventually leaves our bodies through sweat, tears, and respiration, evaporating back into the atmosphere to start the cycle again.
The ultimate recycling system.
Exactly. Well, if water truly retains the structural memory of the frequencies it encounters, and that water is constantly cycling through us and out of us,
Oh my God.
what happens to those memories when they evaporate? Are the intentions, the gratitude, and the deep stresses we process internally being carried out into the atmosphere?
So when it rains,
When it rains, are we being showered in the collective emotional memory of humanity?
wow. Are we raining our intentions back down on the earth?
It's possible.
That is a profound physical mechanism to think about. Our internal state might literally be contributing to the energetic weather of the planet.
It definitely changes how you look at a rainstorm.
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, that gives us all plenty to process. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Go grab a glass of water, pause, give it some good data, and we will catch you next time.